I chose it because I figured no matter what happens in my future life at the time, I would always have a job.
You know, it needs to be remembered that truly, although there were exceptions, in those days, a young woman was either a teacher or a nurse. I mean, there really were not other choices.
I used to read a lot of books and read about my heroes, Clara Barton and the Henry Street settlement, and Florence Nightingale. I just kind of always wanted to be a nurse.
I had wanted to be a nurse since I was 10 years old, so it was an ambition of mine to be a nurse, so it was easy to enter into it.
My parents were fine with me being a nurse, and they were especially pleased that, especially my father, he wanted me to have the college degree. And I can remember Sputnik in the 50s, when America started to pay attention to how important it was that we learn science and become leaders in science and not be surpassed by other countries. So he insisted that in high school I study chemistry and physics.
Oh, my family was thrilled because they figured, oh, we have a nurse. Now we can ask all kinds of questions and get free advice.
The nuns in my high school understood the difference between a hospital program and a university program, even though university programs were so new. And they said, Julie, you don't want to go to a hospital program, you want to go to a university program.
It was in the city, it was on the lake. You know, I was a commuter. Lots of people in the class were commuters. That was not, you know, an exception.
I was confident I would get a good education there. I was interviewed by Dean Canary before I was admitted there, and I liked Dean Canary. If she accepted you, she instilled you with some confidence that you could make it there, because you can believe I was trembling when I went for that interview. But she was wonderful.
I could go to college, I could study other things, and I could be a nurse. I was like thrilled.
Everybody liked the union. It was our place to gather.
There was like a nursing table, so you always had a place to go. You could always, you know, hang out there for a while.
Just being on that campus on the lake, seeing the waves roll in, especially when I'd go to the chapel, which was every now and then.
I joined Alpha Phi Delta, which was the nursing professional sorority.
We won the NCAA championship when I was junior. It was really fun to be a part of that.
When I started, they built Stubler Hall, so that was the first residence for women. I loved every day of it. We had a great group of women living in the hall, and then of course right across the street was the men's dorm where we had to go for our meals. So you had a lot of interaction with the male side of Loyola.
We went to Hamilton's. Girls could drink at 18 and boys had to wait until they were 21 in those days, which is amazing, isn't it? So we would go down to Hamilton's on Friday night and have a few drinks, which my parents didn't know about.
College boys were used to going on panty raids, and somehow the rumor came that they were going to come to Stubler Hall. So everybody had their doors locked, and of course nothing happened. So.
I remember they put a Volkswagen on the top of the stairs one night. That was frowned upon.
Life was never boring at Loyola. It was just, you know, I began to bloom at Loyola. I think I led a pretty sheltered life. I didn't even start dating till I was a senior in high school. And it's like life opened up at Loyola. Just opened up my mind to so much.
In something like nursing, you really have to kind of count on each other. You need to depend that, you know, somebody else is going to help you out if you're in trouble, or that you can ask for help.
We had to have urine specimens into the health office for our physicals at like noon. And one of our classmates, who shall remain nameless, produced all of them. we just passed the cups to her in the bathroom, and she filled them all up. So if there was something wrong, there would be this epidemic of some terrible illness if she had it, because we were too late. We were in a hurry, and so she volunteered, and we just all took hers.
We rotated clinical experiences. Sometimes when we had med-surg nursing, we would commute to Weiss Hospital. We were an interim group before Loyola had their own hospital. For psychiatric nursing, we were at Downey, a veterans hospital.
And at that time, people were in the hospital for life, you know, kind of thing. And people who were kind of happy to see you because, you know, you were a little change in their life.
I would drive a few of us to Downey. We would spend the week there. Psych nursing was difficult for me. I decided it was not the field for me, and I can remember the very last day of class, driving home for the last time. The Beatles were becoming big in America, and I loved the Beatles. And I was just blasting the radio. The Beatles were singing "I Want to Hold Your Hand," and I was driving home, so happy to be leaving Downey. And I hear the sirens behind me. I got stopped and was given a speeding ticket.
I loved being in Cook County Nursing School. It's a place that's been around for a long, long time with lots of history.
I loved living at Cook County Hospital. We each had our own bed and our own little room. I had my own sink. I had a desk and a chair. That was much more luxury than I had at home with my parents.
Do you remember us filing off needles and getting them ready to be re-sterilized and using
Dull needles.
dull needles?
This really was primitive. I mean, truly.
It was primitive. By the standards of 1964,
it was primitive. Right.
It was, right.
Well, look at their food trays. You'd have a hard-boiled egg rolling
around. Right. And a piece of toast.
We would walk through those tunnels past the morgue to get to the hospital, and we just were, you know, we saw so much there. Some was good, some was not so good, but it was a wonderful learning experience. We were so proud on capping day when we were given our caps. It was just as monumental as graduating, engaged, you know, all that. It was a huge thing. And then the maroon stripe identified us as Loyola along with the design of the cap. And the stripe could not be on when the caps were laundered. We would put the stripe on with KY lubricating jelly. And KY jelly has held this on in my drawer for many, many years.
I think Loyola, also the times, there wasn't job anxiety like there is today, okay? You decided where you wanted to work and you applied and people were happy to have you.
It was the mantra at the time, oh, those college graduates, they don't have enough clinical experience. They're not as good a nurse. That was the thing at the time that people were worried about, and we were, as students at Loyola, worried about. Did we have enough experience to be able to practice nursing? It turned out we most certainly did. We were way ahead.
I think that the teachers showed us that we had to be flexible and had to adapt to change. It was almost like they knew the world was changing. And they figured, now these students have to learn how to adapt.
You know, that's when the times were changing. This was 1964 when I was a senior. The women's movement was started, and Betty Friedan's book on the feminine mystique had come out. So for me, that was a very exciting time.
I have never for a moment been sorry I became a nurse. It has been an incredibly rich, satisfying experience.
In the School of Nursing, I think that's where I really learned to always bear in mind that we're dealing with people as a whole. Not only their physical needs, their emotional needs, their needs for knowledge and understanding.
Well, you know, it was a tremendous gift. I didn't, as with most things when I was a kid, I didn't fully appreciate what I was getting, but it was very valuable.
The class of '64 did encourage us to keep friendships together.
We learned to
rely on each other, trust each other, and we know we'll be remembered, liked.
We feel comfortable talking to each other. You know, it's just off the cuff when we get together.
I just heard that we're the only ones that did this, or that, you know, that we're different than other people. You know, maybe it was that 1964 was an incredible year, and that the transformation put some sort of cohesion to us. We were just talking about the civil rights movement or the feminist movement or all these things, the war in Vietnam.
Nobody else has been through what we've been through, so that they, you know,
Yeah.
Yeah,
don't know. They, you know,
you could cry together, laugh together.
Nursing has been, though, the binding material that has kept us together and has kept us to have friendships.
My class was a wonderful class, and I just love them all dearly.